Hello, and welcome to On the Turf, hosted by three guys who have never been on the turf. My name is Arjun and Rohan.
I'm Ron Patel.
And today we have possibly the most official guest we've ever had on the show. Starting off season 3 with a bang. We'd like to welcome Rushil to the show. Rushil's, again, he's a reporter for USA Today on the Panthers. And what better time to have him come on before the Panthers, a week from now, are going to be on the clock, making the first pick in the NFL, the 2023 draft. So thank you so much for coming on, Rushil. We're excited to talk about the Panthers with you today.
Let's go. Excited to be here.
All right, so let's just kick it off. The Panthers technically are right now on the clock. They have been for about a month now. And, when we recorded our first episode of Season 3 about a month ago, we were talking a lot about CJ Stroud at 1, and almost like that was a lock. But now the betting markets have shifted, the public perception has shifted, and Bryce Young, the quarterback out of Alabama, is tasked to be the next starter in Carolina. First of all, should we believe this, Rushil, based on what you're hearing? Is this really the right point? Based on your sources?
Based on your sources.
Yeah. All the sources.
Is this the best fit for the Panthers, you think? Or do they think it's the best fit?
100%. I mean, Bryce has been the number one quarterback throughout this entire draft process. There have always just been concerns about the height, but other than that, it's always been clear that Bryce is the number one quarterback. We've seen shifts after the combine about Anthony Richardson. We've seen all this stuff about Stroud based on size. But Bryce is the pick. It's got to be. It doesn't make sense to go other than that. And I think that Bryce is going to prove a lot of people wrong when he shows that he can do the things he did in college with the size that he has.
So do you think
is that a concern for you though? Like when you see a significantly smaller quarterback.
And Rohan would know. He has the smallest quarterback in the league right now.
Yeah.
And where is he sitting? He's sitting at home right now with that ACL tear.
Okay, that's just rude. There's no place for that. There's no place for that in sportsmanship here. But I mean, are you concerned about his size? Not only his height. I mean, he's also one of the more smaller strength-wise, weight-wise quarterbacks. Are you concerned about that? His ability to take hits. He is a mobile quarterback too. Do you see that as a concern?
I think there are some valid concerns, especially because Frank Reich, the new coach, hasn't coached small quarterbacks. He hasn't coached, I think, a small quarterback more than 2 games in his career. So there are some valid concerns about that. But then you just look at what Bryce has done in college, being able to evade those hits, using his pocket mobility, that good pocket presence. And I think you can see a Kyler Murray type effect. And you can see him model some of those quarterbacks that have succeeded in the league despite their smaller size.
I don't know if you want to call that Kyler Murray-like effect.
Kyler Murray has had success.
A Kyler Murray-like effect gets you number 3 in the draft order.
It's not his fault he tore his ACL. You think he chose to do that?
I don't know. His play wasn't great beforehand, man. That's all I'm going to say. Hey, but I want to, okay, so I've been reading, the Bryce stuff. It seems like the media and the public are believing it.
Yeah.
Is there any chance this is a smokescreen? Because the theory I'm seeing proposed that, the Panthers, they're okay with Stroud or Young. They're okay with both of them. It's maybe a 50-50 proposition, let's say. And they're trying to now shift the perception onto Bryce Young so they can get the Texans to trade up to 1. And because the Texans seem to be all in on Bryce Young, it's Bryce Young or not a quarterback. So any truth to that, do you think there's any chance that the Panthers, after trading up from 9 to 1, would then trade down from 1 to 2?
So 2 things. First, I don't think it's a 50-50 whatsoever. I think that they have their guy, and it might not be Bryce, but they have their guy. And at this point in the draft, when you have the number 1 pick, you have to have your guy. They've had conversations. They've decided on their person, whether it's Stroud, Young, or hopefully not, but if it's someone else. And then number 2 is that you don't trade from 9 to 1 and give up an asset like DJ Moore just to trade back down.
Yeah.
People have talked about that on Twitter. It's true. You don't do all that movement and give up all those assets just to move back down and swap picks with number 1 and 2 because you don't care about who you get. You do that kind of move to build your franchise, to get the quarterback you want, and to have that choice at number 1. To get the person you want, and I think they're going to stick with that pick.
So you think Bryce has always been the guy throughout this entire process?
I don't think so. I think when they made the trade, I think there was definitely a possibility. There were definitely people in the rooms that were talking about to talk about Stroud. People talk about Richardson. People talk about Levis, unfortunately.
Okay, we'll get into Levis.
Levis at number 1 is a stretch.
I agree. Yeah,
and I think there's something to be said about how there could be good quarterbacks that go later, but it's still a stretch to pick them early because you could get them later. And you don't trade out from 9 to 1 to get Levis. You don't do it for Richardson either. But I do think that when you trade up, you're trading up for that opportunity to pick your guy, and you trust yourselves to have a guy later in the process, even if you don't have one when you make the trade.
So then if you do pick Young, I mean, what does next year look like? I mean, obviously he's going to come in, he's going to start. You traded away your best receiver. What are the expectations for the Panthers going in there? Because I think it's a really weak NFC South.
I would pick the Panthers right now.
Would you
Bryce
pick
Young.
I mean,
would.
Would you pick Bryce Young to lead that team to
Yeah,
division?
Bryce Young might be the best quarterback in that division. Who we got? Derek Carr. I'm sorry, I'm not that high on Derek Carr. And
Baker.
Baker. I'm personally. Rushil knows this. I'm a Baker truther.
Yeah.
I remember telling me at the beginning of last season, I'm like, I think Baker's going to take this team to playoffs. And I think I said it on the show, actually, as well.
And
I was wrong.
How did that work?
Yeah,
I was
not
wrong,
too
and I
good.
got proven wrong. And he knows better than anyone that Baker...
And then the Falcons are going to have Ritter, or we'll get to them later, but maybe a draft pick. So, yeah, I mean, I do see the Panthers with a good defense as well. But, I mean, I guess what I'm most worried about is the lack of weapons on that offense.
Yeah. So question before that: do you take the Panthers despite who they draft number one, or does it?
I think
rely
if
on
it's Young or Stroud,
Okay.
I would pick them.
Okay.
Either one.
Okay.
I think both of them. I mean, look, I'm no film guy, right? But both of them to me are better than the guys I have seen film on, which are the other three quarterbacks.
Fair.
And I think the defense for the Panthers, that's the thing that keeps me going, right? That's easily the best defense in that entire division.
Yeah. And I think the difference with this year's Panthers that they've struggled in years past is the offensive line too. You finally got a solid line that can protect Young, that can protect someone that could be taking hits. And that changes things a lot for the Panthers because in years past when they've had young quarterbacks and they've had project quarterbacks and they've had Sam Darnold back there taking shot after shot, you haven't given quarterbacks opportunities to succeed. And I think that changes this year. They probably draft receiver early. They have a running back room that's capable. And I think that offensive line changes things.
So, retrospectively, do you regret the the Christian McCaffrey trade?
No.
No.
I think it was necessary. They weren't going to get anywhere with. I love McCaffrey. Like I think he's a game changer. I think everyone knows he's a game changer. They weren't getting anywhere with the team as it was, and they needed to offload the contract, get the picks, and sort of move in a direction of rebuilding.
I gotta say, if the Panthers manage to pull this off, if they manage to even get near a winning record next year, it'll be one of the more interesting franchise rebuilds, I think. Trade away Christian McCaffrey, trade away DJ Moore. They always say maximize weapons in the league right now. But the Panthers are essentially saying we're going all in on quarterback and we'll run an offense by committee with a great offensive line and great defense.
And I think keeping Burns and Chin was crucial to that because it was always going to be that one or two of the pieces between McCaffrey, Burns, Chin, and DJ Moore and a couple other young players were going to be traded. And it was definitely a choice to trade away the two offensive weapons and keep that defense intact and keep the best defense in the division. Because I think that gives you a fighting chance no matter who you have in the offense.
But yeah, so we're talking a lot about the Panthers, and we're going to operate right now under the assumption that Bryce Young goes to the Panthers at 1, and that he's their future franchise quarterback. But let's go to 2, because the Texans, we thought this entire time until probably about a week ago, I thought that the Texans, younger Stroud will go 1, the other one will go 2.
Yeah.
But now things are getting interesting. And now that Young is seemingly locked in at 1, the Texans are seeming to go for, and the wisdom is saying, and all the reporting is saying, the Texans are looking at the best defensive players in this draft if it's not Bryce Young. And in fact, on the turf, we, one of my friends who I can't really disclose, we have an unnamed source, and this is a legit source.
This is
breaking
legitimate.
news, guys. This is we bring our reporter, and now we're breaking news.
Yeah.
Can you pull up the?
I can't bring It's an unnamed source, man.
Okay,
I can't do it.
sorry.
I can't do that to him. I can't do that to him. I'm sorry. But our source tells us, and this is with NFL reporting and people within the organizations, that with regards to the Houston Texans, Stroud is not high on their draft boards, and that's true for a lot of other teams as well. The Texans really like Will Anderson. They like Bijan Robinson. They like Tyree Wilson over CJ Stroud. It goes Bryce Young, those players, and then the rest of the quarterbacks. And Will Levis is on that board as well. So Will Levis is above CJ Stroud. Above CJ Stroud.
That's questionable.
But it's not in isolation because apparently our same source tells us that the Colts value Will Levis a ton too. And they think he's their guy at 4. So with all this information, right, we're seeing that teams are not in on Stroud. And Rushil, we were talking right before we started recording about this, right? Is this some kind of ploy by teams down the board to get Stroud to fall down to them? Or do you think there's actually some momentum around this that Stroud could possibly not be the quarterback people think people think he was at the beginning of this draft process.
I think it's all a smoke. I don't buy any of it. And so my friend Matt Miller over at Bleacher Report, he was at Bleacher Report, but he
Matt Miller.
but he had this great tweet a few days ago. You see two things happen at the same time the week before the draft. One is this talk about Stroud supposedly failing the S2, and then two is this talk about the Manning camp and Stroud ghosting the Manning camp. And they don't come out of nowhere the week before the draft, and not meant to benefit anyone. They're definitely put out by someone, meant to benefit someone, and you got to look at who that's benefiting, and it's probably a team that's a bit lower in the draft order that wants to get Stroud without trading up. It's someone putting out some information, because you don't just drop those bombs a week before the draft and expect it to all be truth. So I don't buy it.
So the an interesting thing I read about the Texans, though, is that one of their concerns about Stroud is the Deshaun Watson connection.
Yeah, that's
right?
an interesting. I read about that.
So Stroud and Watson have the same agent,
and they're
right?
friends too.
And Stroud and Watson are friends, and they're saying that the Texans have such a bad taste in their mouth from the whole Watson fiasco.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame them, obviously, because there's a fiasco before the allegations came out too, right? In terms of Watson holding out. So they're saying that could be a reason. And another interesting correlation I'm drawing is that you look at the last few drafts. Remember Dwayne Haskins, Justin Fields? Those are quarterbacks that we thought were going to be picked high. Ohio State quarterbacks. I don't know if that's a crazy correlation to draw, if it's actually something legitimate. The fact that these guys have been dropping down the boards when they were supposed to be top 10.
But think about OSU quarterbacks play with the best receiver talent in the country. I don't think it's that much of a leap to say it's actually a correlation at this point.
And we're going to talk about one of those receivers later. Yeah. But at the same time, the fact is that CJ Stroud. I mean, you just look at you look at his college career compared to Will Levis, and it's hard to justify picking someone like Levis, isn't it? For all our talk about these high upside quarterbacks having success, I mean, I struggle to find the last time that someone who didn't have success in college truly had a big impact in the NFL.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, but
Herbert.
He wasn't picked top 3. I would say Justin Herbert had a solid college career.
Fair,
right? And you look at your other Zach Wilson's. Carson Wentz is a tough one to pick at. They haven't had success when they were drafted high, right? The players that do have success are the types like Trevor Lawrence, right? So I just find it. I don't know. I feel like teams really overthink this when Stroud should be the logical pick.
But I will say this isn't a quarterback draft, right? This is a quarterback Will Anderson draft.
Sure.
So
at that point, yeah, I guess Anderson does make sense. But if you're the Texans, I mean, what's your end goal here? You need to get a quarterback somewhere. I don't think do you wait till 12 and hope for the best? Do you trade up? Are you entering the Caleb Williams sweepstakes for next year? What's the plan here? I just don't see it.
So I'll say this for the Texans: DeMeco Ryans, defensive coach from the Niners, right? I mean, look, this is kind of a crazy comparison to make, but back all the way in 2019. The Cardinals picked Kyler Murray at 1, right?
Yeah.
Who the Niners pick at 2? They picked Nick Bosa, a game-changing edge player. And before you knew it, the Niners have been in contention ever since. I think there's something to be said that, and the Texans have been through this with J.J. Watt all those years ago, too. If you pick a game-changing defensive end, it can help you. Can it get you over the hump? No, but let's say you get Will Anderson and Caleb Williams next year. That's something.
Yeah, that's fair, but again, it's a really big ask, and you have, I would argue, an extremely good quarterback waiting for you. I get the concerns. I mean, I guess to me, it's weirdly the most logical concern is the agent stuff. I don't get the concerns about his play, but I guess I see the vision. Maybe a trade here makes sense.
But I also, going back to the Texans and Will Anderson conversation, I could see it happening. I don't think it would be a bad pick. Just because you bring up the Nick Bosa example, you take a game-changing defensive player like that, and then you have set up your team for success on the defensive end for years. And you can go quarterback maybe next year, maybe later in the draft, but I think the Will Anderson pick would be a good pick, even if Stroud is available.
Sorry, going back to the Texans really quick, I do want to bring a new element into this, which we heard about yesterday.
Trey Lance.
Rohan's favorite player, Trey Lance.
Trey Lance, my guy.
Rohan, if you've been following the show, as you know, Rohan is the ultimate Trey Lance hater.
Bust supreme.
So, a report came out yesterday in Rappaport that teams are calling the Niners for Trey Lance. So, whether that's a report from Lance's side that he wants to be moved and they're trying to plant that and tell teams, the business is open, or the Niners are saying, up your offers, we're ready to go. let's get this guy out of here and, let's go forward with Brock Purdy. Texans, to me, jump out as the most immediate place for Trey Lance. As we said, you got that Niners system there, Niners offensive coordinator, Niners offensive staff coming over. Trey Lance, it's not like he wouldn't be skipping that many beats by moving over to Houston, right?
Right, that is true. Personally, I think if you're the Texans, it's a good investment. I think you can trade a day 2 pick. You're not trading your number 2 pick for Trey Lance. Don't get that twisted. You can trade your day 2 pick for Lance. You can then pick Anderson, and you can say, hey, we're trying this quarterback out. We are making an effort to compete this year. And I think you can compete for a wild card spot, maybe in the division, when your only competition is the Jaguars, I feel like. Especially if you can get Anderson coming in. And the number 12 pick, whoever that is. I feel like it makes sense for the Texans. And then if it doesn't work out, you didn't invest too much. You can cut your losses, take the quarterback next year. It doesn't make sense to me for the Niners. I mean, I get you're high on Purdy. And in my opinion, I'm still not sold on Purdy. I know he had a really good stretch, but I don't know. Backup quarterbacks tend to go on a run for a little bit. I just think his run was a little bit longer than most. I just think his run's a little bit longer than most, and his time is ticking. I know I'm a Trey Lance hater, but if you're the Niners, from an objective perspective,
what a character arc we're seeing
no.
right
Listen.
This man was saying, get Trey Lance out of San Francisco last year.
I still think Trey Lance is not the player that he was drafted to be. But can he play at the level Purdy was playing last year? Sure, he's a quarterback still.
This is amazing.
Amazing. No.
I won't stand for this.
He is a quarterback. A quarterback can fill the role in the Niners system. That being said, I don't think he's a game changer. But if you're the Niners, you invested what, 2, 3 first round picks in him?
3
first round picks in him. You can't just move off of him now. I don't see how you can move off him when you expected him to live up to all this hype, and you're going to trade him away on a day 2 for Mr. Irrelevant. And Sam Darnold?
He's Mr. Irrelevant.
All due respect, but Sam Darnold is your backup then?
Look, I'll just say this. Brock Purdy was my offensive rookie of the year, my personal pick. And in my mind,
cookie?
There you go.
I mean, I wouldn't mind one, but you only had to ask. Anyway, let's move down the board. Let's talk about the Colts, Seahawks, and Lions. 4, 5, 6.
Did we just forget 3?
I forgot. Yeah, the Cardinals.
See, the worst part that wasn't planned. That wasn't planned.
I'm not even bullshit.
You just forgot.
Yeah, I literally just forgot there was a team sitting at 3.
I'll quickly talk about the Cards. I mean, the ideal I think is you trade down. You have so many holes in this roster. Right?
What's not a hole?
It's taking a minute.
I don't hate Isaiah Simmons. I mean, we lost Byron Murphy as a corner as a whole.
You might lose Buda Baker.
We might lose Buda. We might lose D-Hop. Quarterback's not a hole.
James Conner's there.
Yeah, he is. He is present. Anyways, I hope we trade down. Someone should trade up and take that pick from us, get their quarterback. Speaking of, Colts, 4. Right? We just talked about them. We talked about Levis. I mean, if Stroud is still on the board here, again, I don't see how Levis is over Stroud. But if that's what it is, the Colts are taking a quarterback. If they are at 4, it seems like they're taking Levis.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Colts will go quarterback. I think that's
they will.
Even if Bryce Young to the Panthers is like a 90% possibility, I think this is actually like 100%. I cannot see the Colts not going quarterback. They are the most desperate, down bad team for a quarterback in this entire draft.
Yeah.
I think Levis. I could see Levis happening here. I could see Stroud happening here. I can't see Richardson for whatever reason. For me, it seems Richardson. It seems like it's Shane Steichen's offense, so it's gonna be. They could bring over the Jalen Hurts offense they ran with him, but I think Jim Irsay wants to compete now, and possibly CJ Stroud certainly gives you that chance. He's pro ready. Will Levis maybe. You got Gardner Minshew there, but I don't think they're going to sit and wait for Anthony Richardson to develop. After going through the whole Carson Wentz experiment, after going through who they have last year.
Phillip Rivers, Jacoby Brissett experience.
Matt Ryan.
Yeah. I forgot about him.
But yeah, I think the Colts are going to be desperate. Whichever one, I can't really say right now, Levis or Stroud, but I think it's going to be either one of them.
It's just whoever's left.
I think it's
at that point.
Yeah.
But what if both of them are left?
Yeah, because if you're willing. No, but then at 3, one of them's going to go.
Really?
Do you think it's more likely than not that 3 is traded?
It should be. Will it?
It's likely.
I think it's a lot more likely that the top 5 no trades.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
I think that the Cardinals are going to ask for too much, and frankly, I don't trust our management to make the right decision. I lost all faith. Okay, the Suns are playing tonight. That's all I care about. But I think we do stay. Because honestly, like at that point, like I do see like why we would stay. Because if a team's going to trade up to 3, I would ask for a king's ransom, right? And I wouldn't budge off of it because you're going to have to trade down, and then sure you might get a pick next year. But then you trade down, you might not get good talent this year. I'm happy to sit and take like Tyree Wilson, Jalen Carter, or whatever. But that's the point. I think it stays the same. I think Colts probably take Levis if that's what reports are saying, but I don't know.
Let's talk about 2 more interesting teams. I think the Seahawks and Lions, and we can actually group the Raiders in there too. 3 teams with, we'd all say they're around actually similar to your quarterback. I'm a Jared Goff truther. I think he's much better than Geno Smith and Jimmy Garoppolo, but I'll leave that be. But you got the Seahawks at 5, Geno Smith, amazing season. This is the Broncos pick. The Lions, this is the Rams pick. Jared Goff, great season, 9-8. And then the Raiders, terrible season, terrible coach, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah. Which one will pick a quarterback, do we think?
I think so. Okay, I've told Rohan this ad nauseum at this point. I think the Seahawks should go quarterback. I think the Seahawks they're not going to be in this position probably for the long-term future. They look to me, besides you got the Niners probably have the brightest future in that division, but next to them I think the Seahawks are right there with them. And then I think if they're not going to be at 5 anymore, take Anthony Richardson, develop him, and then bring him in next year when Geno Smith's contract you can get out of it. Because we don't know if Geno Smith is going to continue the same level of play. He's 32 years old. He's had 1 good year. So I think personally the Seahawks will. But I think out of these 3, I'd say the Lions are actually the most likely. I think same situation. They can cut Jared Goff next year. And the Lions are much more stacked on both sides of the ball, I think, right now. They're ready to compete, which means they can afford to take a quarterback at 6 and then do the rest of the draft. Because they have another first-round pick as well. But what do you guys think? Out of these 3 teams, which ones do you think any of them are likely to take a quarterback? If so, which one? Or do you think all of them just go skill position? Because Jalen Carter, all the corners, and all the offensive tackles are there for the taking too.
So we talked about this a little bit right before, but I think and this is a conspiracy theory through and through, but I think that it makes sense that all this like Stroud talk is coming from a team, and I think that if it's coming from a team, it's coming from the Raiders. I think that the Raiders want Stroud to fall, and if Stroud falls, that's an automatic easy pick. I don't know if they reach for anyone else at that point, and I'm still considering Levis a reach at 7. But I don't know if
The man
they.
does not like Levis.
No.
Wait,
It's 'cause
what is your hate? Wait,
Is
I've
it
just been
the
spoiled with
banana?
all
Is it
this.
the mayo?
The mayo and the coffee.
All this talk over the last few weeks about Levis, it's died down luckily recently, but about Levis potentially going number 1 has been wild, and I'm just completely against Levis now. But it's Levis and Richardson can't stand them because they keep mocking number 1, and that's not going to happen. But I think the Raiders will go Stroud if he's there. I think they really want Stroud. I don't know if they'd trade up for him, but I think they really want him.
Yeah, so I mean, okay, we'll start with the Seahawks. I don't agree. I feel like if you're the Seahawks, you wouldn't pay Geno. You wouldn't even bother keeping Geno if you were planning on taking a quarterback. Surely you knew that at 5.
You want to develop him.
What?
You want to develop them.
Richardson.
Yeah.
Richardson, I guess, but then I guess you couldn't have told like that far back when you signed Geno that Stroud could fall to you. That's a bit of a stretch to ask for to see from a team, but I don't know. This is a team that if stuff doesn't go right for the Niners at the quarterback position, the Seahawks are the team that can win the division, right? They clearly showed that last year with Geno. I think you pick Jalen Carter, you shore up your run defense, which was weak last year, and then all of a sudden this team looks pretty good. This team looks like it can compete for the division, even if Trey Lance / Brock Purdy are healthy. Move down, Lions at 6. I see the vision there too. You said I know you comped Stroud to Goff, and you said that he could be Goff just a little bit better and a little bit cheaper if the Lions want to move off after that. But Goff, I think, has put 2 seasons in which he's showed that he's capable.
The Goff offense is alive and well, man.
But I also do understand your concern where it's almost like this is crazy for the Lions, but they have so much talent, right?
I know.
Their receiving core is really good. Running back room is great. You made a lot of good defensive additions. I think the one thing though, and we'll do the mock later, but you traded Jeff Okudah, right? And you didn't trade him for a high pick. You traded him for really nothing,
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Lions did that fully knowing that they get their pick of the top 2 corners here.
Yeah.
Then you go to the Raiders. The Raiders, I like your theory. My issue with the Raiders, I was telling you this, okay?
Yeah.
My issue with the Raiders is that the Raiders, they're like a drug addict, right? They're so addicted to the idea that they could be good. They keep going back for more. They don't know when to cut their losses. Like they need to go to rehab, and in this case, a rebuild, right? Like, you sign Garoppolo because you're like, oh, like he can increase our window. We still
Josh
have
McDaniels
Adams.
is a hack.
We still have, he is a hack. First of all, we have Devontae, we have Josh Jacobs. We can still compete. No, you can't. Like, you're in this tough AFC West. You couldn't compete with Derek Carr. What makes you think you can compete with Jimmy Garoppolo? Your defense still stinks.
Chill. Jimmy's not that bad.
Okay, I mean he's not. He's on the same level as Derek Carr. I don't know. I think the Raiders, and what I'm trying to say is that the Raiders, because of that, they're going to say, no, we can't compete. Let's pick a corner. Let's pick a defensive player that can like make our team better now instead of investing in the future. I think they should pick a quarterback. I don't think they will.
Do that. All right. So now let's start off with the mock draft. Doing all 32 teams would take way too long. So let's start off with Carolina at 1. David Tepper and
Scott.
the GM. Huh?
Scott
Fitterer. Scott Fitterer. There we go. He's the GM. He's going to be Rushil. You're Scott Fitterer. Who are you picking at 1?
Apparently Rochelle's a concussion.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I trust his logic right now.
Yeah, so obviously, like, the person who I've liked this entire time, Will Levis. Gotta be the pick at number 1. No, we're going Bryce Young, obviously.
All right, Bryce Young. I'll take Houston because I got a source there in the Texans organization. I'm going to go Will Anderson. I think they're going edge. I think at 12 there's a chance they could get quarterback depending on how this board shakes out. But I think Houston goes Will Anderson here. And Rohan, Arizona, the most exciting moment of the 2023 season is upon you.
Yay.
What are they going to do at 3?
So okay, this could be the turning point of the draft if we trade. Barring trade, this is like my worst case scenario because no Will Anderson. I'm kind of just like, well, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer Jalen Carter, but I think logic says Tyree Wilson. He is clearly the second best edge rusher. Again, like you said, building off an edge can be good. I prefer to build from from the inside out, and I think Jalen Carter's more dominant force. But I'll take Tyree Wilson and see how that goes. I don't care, dude.
All right, Indianapolis now.
So Indy has a choice here.
You want to take Will Levis?
For the second time.
Yeah.
So they've got a choice, right? Stroud and Levis.
Yeah.
We've seen tons of connections between Levis and Indy. But for me, Stroud makes more sense as the quarterback here. So the Colts have a choice. For no reason at all, I'm going to go Levis.
All right.
I've seen it mocked too many times. It makes sense fit-wise. I don't think it's the right pick, but I see it happening.
I agree.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a really bad pick. I see where
Yeah,
you're coming
yeah,
from,
yeah.
but I agree with you. It's just a bad pick.
Yeah.
You have to pick Stroud there.
Now at 5, if I'm Seattle, personally, I'm taking a quarterback here. In fact, I'm taking Anthony Richardson. I think it makes too much sense for them. But I think Jalen Carter makes too much sense for them, despite the, is criminal history, it seems.
Okay, off the field issues.
Off the field issues, sorry. If we're saying it like that. But I think it makes too much sense for the defensive line. And I think Jalen Carter could be, like you said, like a game changer for them.
Yeah, I agree, and I think he just helps them compete. So next, Detroit. I have a very strong glitch there. I have a very strong belief in what the Lions are going to do here. Again, I see the vision behind quarterback. Again, I feel like every pick that you see here, you have to consider trades. Again, going off that no trade that we're going to do right now. Again, you traded Okudah, you're picking a corner here, I think that's the most clear spot. Honestly, can't tell whether it's Witherspoon or Gonzalez. I've seen both of them sort of be rated really highly. I've seen a lot more on Gonzalez. I thought that he was a better corner. So I'll say Christian Gonzalez, but would not be surprised at all by Devin Witherspoon from Illinois.
All right, now Vegas. Vegas got their wish according to what you're thinking.
Stroud is
CJ
there.
Stroud.
Stroud is available.
Yeah.
And it's insane that he's still available.
I don't think that happens.
Stroud's dropping more.
No. Like I think they take Stroud if he's there. I don't think he falls that far.
Mm-hmm.
I think that because we're doing no trades, that might happen. But two things is number one, if he's there at 3, someone jumps to 3 and takes him. And then if he's somehow there at Seattle's pick, there's phone calls flying all over the place. Someone trying to get Stroud. So, I mean, Vegas takes Stroud here.
Okay.
But I think Stroud goes earlier in reality.
All right.
So, sorry, a quick note. Does Vegas trade up for him, or is it... Because at that point, I think there's arguably a few dozen, not dozen, maybe like 10 or so teams that...
I think Vegas probably has the strongest offer, right? If you're at 3, if they're trading up either 3 or 5, Vegas has the easiest...
Oh, yes.
All those teams are expecting or are going to accept Vegas's call because they're going to be at 7.
Closest,
yeah.
Probably select the player you want.
I think Vegas swaps to Seattle. I don't know they go all the way up to 3, but they definitely make some calls if Seattle's on the clock and Stroud's still there.
Yeah. All right, now at 8, Atlanta's here. You have Anthony Richardson on the board, but I'm not going to take him. I think for Atlanta?
I think if he's there, you take him.
No way. I don't think
you're running with the Ritter in front of their year.
I think they're confident in Ritter, and I think. Look, I want to say Bijan here, but I'm going to say Devin Witherspoon goes here to Atlanta. You get another lockdown corner alongside A.J. Terrell. Make that secondary something to be feared, really. And the defense in Atlanta's rebuild has not really made sense for me that much in terms of what their strategy is. Maybe shoring up the defensive side of the ball and the secondary can help them out, and they get Devin Witherspoon here. So both corners off the board in Detroit and Atlanta.
That just hurts because you got 2 good corners. Your skill positions are really good with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Cordero Patterson, and Desmond Ritter is going to be like an anchor on that
Caleb
team.
Williams is going to look great
That's
in the
fair.
red and black.
That is fair. Chicago here at 9. Wow, honestly, I have to look at these players really quickly. I mean, what do you pick a tackle here? I guess
I think it has to be tackle.
I think that's the best option, right? And the best tackle is Skoronsky out of Northwestern.
Yeah.
Peter Skoronsky, right?
Yeah.
Peter Skoronsky out of Northwestern. He's the best tackle. Your O-line has been terrible. Justin Fields has literally been running for his life all year. I think that's an easy pick. If you're the Bears, just protect Justin Fields, and hopefully that offense can get clicking.
All right, Philly's on the clock.
I think we should talk about Philly because
Okay.
I think this is where we could see a little mini run on offensive linemen. I think that tackle makes sense. I don't see if anything else makes sense right now.
Bijan?
Okay, if you're the Eagles though, this is sort of coming out of nowhere. Do you consider trading up to because you have your later pick, right?
Yeah.
Do you consider trading up to get Witherspoon and Gonzalez? I think cornerback is that bad of a need for them.
I don't know. I trust Howie Roseman. I think Howie Roseman, he's more likely to trade down, I think, than trade up. Because the Eagles are sitting pretty as far as any of these teams in the draft. They were in the Super Bowl, just about to win. They were very close to winning the Super Bowl, and they're at the 10 pick in this draft. I think they could trade down here and still get a really good premium player instead of trading up and using those. Because they got to reload that defense. But what do you think? Do you think defense is the play here or tackle?
I think it's tackle, and y'all are gonna have to help me on the number 2 tackle in the draft.
I think it's Paris. I've heard Paris Johnson is the number 1. He's very much a traditional left tackle. I think that's what I've heard. So lock him in.
Yeah.
Paris Johnson.
Let's
All
do
right.
it.
Paris Johnson and the Eagles. I mean, we know that the Eagles love the building up the front. The front.
Yeah.
On the offense and defense.
That's just that's an unsexy Eagles pick. I feel like I don't see that very often.
But I feel like they always they kind of make those unsexy picks. I mean, do you count Jordan Davis as kind of a sexy pick last year? Or the year before?
because they got him at a really good rate. You know what I'm saying? He was supposed to drop that far. Devontae Smith, I don't know, but I do see the vision there. It makes sense.
All right, now
I know what you're doing here.
Tennessee, you know what I'm doing. Tennessee running to the podium. Anthony Richardson right now. I think Tennessee is very much in the market for a quarterback. It makes sense. Tannehill. Titans don't look good for this year. I'm gonna be honest. They don't have much to work with.
Talking about trading Derrick Henry.
But you can't really get rid of those assets, right? You kind of gotta let the contracts play out, do the rebuild. So Tannehill rides out the rest of his contract. Richardson comes in to start next year. Richardson's been compared to Malik Willis, but I think Malik Willis, they've given up on him. Richardson is one of the most gifted prospects we've ever seen. And I think he sits on the bench and ready to start next year for them.
Yeah, usually I hate these types of picks. As you know, I don't like Trey Lance. I don't like the high upside type stuff. I don't know. Richardson is just different for me. Like he just seems very fun. I like fun.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see him in Tennessee, dude. I just feel like Vrabel is not the right coach for him. He doesn't seem to have like the temperament for developing a rookie. Vrabel.
You coming after Mike Vrabel right now?
I don't know.
Coach of the year from 2 years ago?
I don't know. Like
if Mike Vrabel heard you say that, he might flatten you.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
That's the issue. That's not the temperament, all right? There's the patience for it. But
this is a weird hot take from you that I didn't see coming.
Okay, no, I think it's one quote that stuck in my mind. Like, he got really pissed at Malik Willis in a preseason game for running too much. I was like, that's why you drafted him, bro. What?
Well, I think he wanted to see him throw because when he saw him in the regular season, he couldn't.
Okay, fair. But I don't know. Maybe it's a developmental issue in Tennessee. Or maybe Malik Willis is just bad. But
Bro's really going after Mike Vrabel.
yeah, Mike Vrabel, I guess. But regardless, I do see the value in that pick. Finally, Houston at 12. Frankly, actually, no, I wouldn't be shocked if they're still here. I guess there's every reason for them to still be here. I don't know. Do they pick a tackle here?
I wouldn't be surprised if they go
Jackson Smith and Jigba?
Yeah. But I think tackle. But they actually have 2 great tackles. They just re-signed Laremy Tunsil.
Yeah.
Titus Howard's not bad either.
Okay.
I'd take Jackson.
You take Jackson
I
here?
like that.
I would take Jackson. The draft room is telling me
you're going to pick Jackson for Davis Mills?
For Trey Lance.
There you go.
that weapon's
That's
yeah.
true.
But yeah, I guess Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's a flashy pick. Pairing with John Metchie should be coming back. Would be kind of fun to watch. Davis Mills will be. And why is Davis Mills starting for the 3rd straight year?
Hey,
bro?
you got Case Keenum, man. You got Case Keenum.
Brother. Yeah, they're waiting for Caleb Williams if they do this. But if this shakes out in this way, yeah, and Jigba makes the most sense for them.
This is a fun top 12 we've got going here. We got Bryce Young going to the Panthers, then Will Anderson to the Texans, then Tyree Wilson to the Cardinals, and then so on and so forth. I'm not going to go through the entire 12. You can just watch the rest of this video to see the rest, but you've already watched that. So I don't know why I'm still talking.
What just happened?
My brain's circuited. All right, let's see.
Also, this will be on a mock draft that we release. Hopefully, if I get a graphic done in the next few days, it's actually that's a really big ask of me.
Yeah.
Don't count on that. But my hot take to leave you all with is that I expect some trades to shake this up. I expect some big trades in the top 10 because I don't think teams will be like if this does play out. I don't think teams will be particularly happy. I think they're going to think that they could have gotten some better assets. With some quarterback needy teams or some other.
All right,
teams.
you just started the segment. Let's do it really quickly. Hot take.
Okay.
Hot take. So, I don't know. Is this a hot take? I think Minnesota is going quarterback.
I think it is a hot take. I think you firmly believe it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a hot take.
All right, that's my hot take. Minnesota, Hendon Hooker, or Minnesota trades up into the top 10 to take one of the 4 that drop down. That's my hot take.
Okay, my hot take is that Bryce is not a done deal. I think personally I want Bryce, and I've wanted Bryce for a while. You gave it a 90% certainty. I wouldn't put it anywhere near that.
Ooh.
I don't think it's
wait
a done
till the
deal
end
at
of the
all.
show to drop that.
Yeah. I think that.
What are the sources? You say the sources. Where's it coming?
No, we've heard a lot about Stroud going there. We've unfortunately heard a lot about Richardson going there. Haven't heard a lot about Levis recently.
Oh my
which
God!
is good.
If Levis is a Panthers uniform,
But-
I'm checking in on this kid.
He won't see me.
I'll buy you a Levis jersey if that happens.
Give myself a second concussion. No, but I don't think it's a done deal. I think that it's the most likely pick. I don't like the odds being so certain on it. But I think there's a chance that Stroud goes there. Yeah, that's the hot take.
Okay. Wait, can I amend my hot take really briefly?
Yeah.
My hot take is that a trade happens. It's also that Atlanta's going to take Anthony Richardson. I like that too much for it to not.
All right. Hot takes. This is going to be a fun draft next week. So like Rohan said, if Rohan does his job, we'll have a mock draft for you guys. Thank you so much, Rushil, really, for coming on.
Yes, sir.
This was, really, we appreciate his insight. And like you said, he actually has actual information from the Panthers. So we really appreciate him taking the time to come on and spend some time with us. Please check out our Instagram. Like you said, we'll have mock draft. We'll have some end of season content coming up. We'll hopefully be doing we will be doing a post draft episode. And if the Panthers pick Levis, we're bringing Rushil back.
Yeah, he's coming back.
If it's anyone but Bryce.
Yeah, he's coming back. But we're really excited for this to come. Then we'll take our brief break for the summer, and we'll be back soon. But we'll have some content, and maybe we'll do NBA this year. Maybe.
It's okay. For context, last year the Suns had a ungodly exit, so I was too depressed to do it. This year, if things are different, we'll definitely be back. But
we hope you guys have a great draft week, and we're gonna have fun next week during the draft. And thank you so much for listening. My name is Arjun and Rohan.
I'm Ron Patel.
I'm Rushil Vashee.
And we'll see you next week on the turf.